Can you see? It says, "Who am I?" Is that visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
So in the previous session, we talked about this concept of soul or jiva, and we started with the question of who am I, and we said that this is a question which most of us get in our life, and we may choose to ignore it, we may choose to ponder about it, but this is one of the fundamental questions which we as humans think about. And I also said that probably and most likely animals do not think about these questions, and this is what distinguishes humans from animals that we established, and then we went on to talk about what is the how we can establish that there is indeed a soul. So I gave some examples. I said that scientifically speaking, the scientific worldview is that humans are nothing but a bunch of chemicals, and I gave you the list of chemicals. And then we said that if we are nothing but those chemicals, then we are just worth $4, and none of us feels that we are $4, and none of us feels that we are a bag of chemicals. So obviously, we feel that we are more than just this bunch of chemicals, right? And then we talked about how through how our human body experiences all these emotions in addition to our daily activities, right? So then we talked about the concept of soul, right? So we said scientific view is that we are made of elements, but then from the scriptural point of view, it says, yes, that is true, but beyond that, you also have a soul. So beyond that material body of flesh and bone, there is also a soul inside us. And then Galina kind of mentioned that when somebody says, show yourself, and then intuitively we point towards our heart. So the idea that she was trying to say is that soul is somewhere residing in your heart. So that was the concept of soul. And then we established that through logic or common sense or through intuitively, we kind of know that there is something beyond this body. So for example, we say my hand, my leg, my body. We don't say I hand, I leg, I body. So when you say my, you are associating with something. So what is that something? So intuitively, we know there is something, but we may not have precise words for it. What is that something? Then we also say that when somebody has died, we say she passed away. So when we say she passed away, who is that she? Because strictly speaking, the body is still there. So what is it that has passed away? I mean, and I also gave an example that when your car breaks down, you don't say the car has passed away. You say the car has broken down. But for people, we don't say the person has broken down. We say the person has passed away. So why that difference? So that difference is because we typically distinguish between life forms and non-life forms. So we have this understanding that something is going away, whether it's soul or something else. That's up to speculation. But we have this concept that we are more than just the body. Then I took some scientific examples where there have been some near-death experiences, and there have been lots and lots of papers and research on this, where people talk about seeing themselves from top. In fact, yesterday itself, I was reading a very comprehensive paper on this. It's done by Dutch scientists. They studied cardiac arrest and near-death experiences of 344 people in Dutch hospitals, and it's a very beautiful paper. It's non-emotional, very scientific, very objective. Later, I might even include this in the slide, and I'll share it with you guys. Okay, and then we talked about two researchers, one from India, Dr. Sapin Pasricha, one from Canada, Ian Stevenson, who used to work in USA. They have done a lot of work on reincarnation. So there is some documentation of this. There are books written on this. So this is more from the scientific point of view. So we discussed the logical point of view where we say that she passed away, my hand, my body. And from scientific point of view, there has been some work on this. Not as detailed as we would like to, but there has been some work on this. So there is some work which establishes reincarnation, near-death experience. Now, but the popular scientific view is that this is just a fabrication of your mind. Now, I can understand that seeing a tunnel or seeing light is a fabrication of your mind, but if somebody is in coma and they're about to die and they're being operated upon, how is that person able to tell what he's seeing? And even yesterday when I was reading this paper, in that paper it talks about uh, a nurse, and they had to actually put a tube in the person's mouth. So while putting the tube, they noticed that this person has a denture. So this nurse takes out the denture and puts it in a box, and then puts that box in a drawer. Now this person is then transferred to ICU, and then comes back after 1 week in that ward, the cardiac ward. and then suddenly he sees that nurse and he says that, oh, that nurse knows where my dentures are. She took it out and she put it in that box. Now I can understand seeing a tunnel, seeing light, seeing God, seeing relatives, seeing dead relatives or whatever. That can be a fabulation of your mind. But how do you explain somebody who is lying on the deathbed telling you exactly what's going on with them? How do you explain that the person is able to tell what color scarf the nurse was wearing, or that the doctor who was operating them was bald, or doctor who was, there were five doctors, one of them was wearing a specs, the other was doing this, the other was doing that. So those kind of things are a bit difficult to explain, but again, not as much research has been done on this topic as should be. So then we move on and then we talk about from a scriptural point of view, Gita talks about soul or Atma in great detail. So that's where we left. So we kind of established the concept of soul. And the reason why we did that is, as I said, that unless you believe or you establish somehow the concept of soul, or even if you don't believe it, you have to at least acknowledge that there is something called soul or concept of soul that is discussed in Gita. Only then we can talk about things like karma, because karma talks about consequences of your action, not just in this lifetime, but in many lifetimes over and beyond this lifetime. So we have to understand something as integrate, something as elaborate as that. We need to first establish the concept of soul. Now, again, I will repeat, believing or not believing is up to you. But the purpose of this course is to explain what is in Gita, and Gita does talk about soul, does talk about karma. So I cannot explain you karma unless I talk about soul. Now, today's topic is time. Now, why is time so important? Time is important for the same reason. As I said, in order to understand karma, we need to understand what time is. Reason being that in Gita, the concept of time is very vast. It doesn't apply in one lifetime. It goes through millions and millions of lifetime. And to fully appreciate what millions and millions of lifetime actually mean, I have to go through a formal derivation of time. Like, what is time? How is it calculated? What is the biggest unit of time? What is the smallest unit of time? So that is why we need to go through this concept of time. And as I had said in the first class itself, that Gita actually talks about five concepts. It talks about Ishvara, which is the supreme controller; Jiva, which is the living entity or soul; Prakriti, which is all the material nature that you see around yourself; Kala, which is time; and Karma, which is basically the laws which govern your activities. And then I had said that Bhagavad Gita is nothing but but telling you how a jiva or a soul interacts with prakriti or the material world around. In Kala, Kala is time, which are governed by the laws of karma, and these laws are designed by Ishvara or the supreme controller. So that's what Gita is in a nutshell. So in the last class was the first time when we actually delved into any of these. So we talked about jiva or soul in that class. Today we are going to do Kala. Now, why are we going to do Kala? I will make my slides bigger in a minute, but for now, let's just see the way it is. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "I am time." So it says, "Time I am, the great destroyer of the world, and I have come here to destroy all people." Now, even in Hindi, when we say something like this, na Kaal aa gaya hai. Kaal aa gaya hai. Kaal is time, but is also a synonym for death, actually. So, what is this Kaal or Kala? That is the focus of discussion today. And if my computer supports it, and if it doesn't crash, then we will play this video. Can you guys see the screen which shows YouTube? I believe you should be able to. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound, but if you do, it'll be great. So I'm going to just switch on this video.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death."
Okay. So this guy is a Nobel Prize winner, but that's not important. What is more important is that he actually is the person who made the atom bomb. So he's Oppenheimer. He's the one who created the atom bomb. And after those bombs were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he was greatly disturbed. As you can see from his facial expression, he's so, you can clearly see that he's disturbed by the death of millions of people due to that bomb, right? So what this guy says is that some people laughed, some people cried, and then he quotes a line from Gita. He says, "Now I've become death, the destroyer of the world," which is nothing but the same line which I had on my slide. So even somebody like Oppenheimer is talking about, and then he says, "Now I become the destroyer of the world," and then Krishna actually shows the Vishwarupa form. The Vishwarupa is basically the Vishwarupa. Vishwa means world or universe, and Rupa means form. So he shows him the universal form. His universal form essentially means him in the greatest magnitude possible. So in that form, there are thousands of God inside his body. There is one side where people are being born. There is other side where people are being destroyed or dying. There is time. He's basically encompassing everything that is there in time: life, death, gods, whatever you can imagine. And then Einstein also talks about this in a slightly different way. He says that time is something that prevents everything from happening at once, which is quite a beautiful concept. If there is no time, if there is no time that separates things, then everything will happen at once. You will die and you will be born at once. The earth will be destroyed and earth will be created at the same time. So fundamentally, time is actually a dimension, and we know this from modern science. But what is amazing is that the scriptures, the Hindu scriptures, knew this for time immemorial. They have documented this. So that is the beauty. So time is actually, in essence, that it is something that prevents everything from happening at once. It is what creates a distance between things in temporal aspect. Now, this YouTube link is the YouTube of Oppenheimer, which I just played. So I will again repeat. It says, "Time I am, the great destroyer of worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people." Now, that is what Krishna says, that I am time, and I have come here to destroy all people. So now, as I said, to understand this time, we need to understand this further. And the way we will do that is by understanding it from a scripture called Bhagavad Purana, or Srimad Bhagavatam also, as it is called. Now, in some sense, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Purana is an extension to Mahabharata or to Gita. Why I say that is because Mahabharata actually talks about that war and it kind of finishes there. And as we know, there is Arjuna and Krishna. These are two prominent people in Gita or in Mahabharata. And then Arjuna had a son. His son's name is Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu has a son. I think his name is Uttara, and Uttara has son. His name is Parikshit. So, or I think Uttara is Parikshit. Galila can correct me. So the Parikshit, I think, is the grandson of Arjuna. So Parikshit is the person who has been cursed to die in 7 days. So he's going to die in 7 days, actually. And he knows that he's going to die in 7 days, and he's asking that question to a very learned person called Sukdev Goswami, who is actually the son of Ved Vyasa. Ved Vyasa is the person who compiled the Mahabharata, the Vedas, and all the scriptural knowledge that is there. So the son of Ved Vyasa is Sukdev Goswami, and Parikshit Maharaj is actually the grandson of Arjuna, who, by the way, after the war finished, became the ruler of the entire world. That is the idea. So this person is going to die in 7 days, and in those 7 days, he's asking this Sukdev Goswami, who is the son of Ved Vyasa and very learned person, that what is the duty of somebody who is going to die in 7 days? What should that person do? And then there is a discussion or dialogue going on between these two people, which is documented as Srimad Bhagavad Puran, which is 18,000 verses. And we know that Gita is 700 verses. So Gita is a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna, and Bhagavad Puran is dialogue between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukdev Goswami. So that's what it is. And this dialogue is slightly longer. So why am I borrowing the concept from that book? Because Gita, as I said, is hardly 2 hours of conversation or 1 hour of conversation. 700 lines, 700 shlokas is 1400 lines, which is not a lot of conversation. So in Gita, Krishna talks about all the concepts that are there in Bhagavad Purana or even other Vedas, but not to that detail, not to that extent. So in order to understand fully what time is, I have borrowed the concept from the other book, which is Srimad Bhagavad Purana. Now, the way I'm going to do that is by talking about a day in life of Brahma, but we'll come back to this slightly later. Let me first establish the smallest unit of time that's talked about. So this is a scale of time. This is a logarithmic scale. Logarithmic scale means that everything that you're seeing over here is multiplied by 10. So it's not, the distance is not linear, but it's a multiplication distance. So when you say 10 to the power minus 7 and 10 to the power minus 6, and 10 to the power minus 5. So 10 to the power minus 5 is not twice as removed from 10 to the power minus 7, but it's actually 100 times as removed. So it's 100 times bigger. That's the idea. So this is the entire time scale according to Hindu calculation of time. Now you would wonder why do I need to study this? I already know what a second is. I already know what a nanosecond is. I already know what a billion of second is. I already know what years is. I already know what a millennium is. Yes, fine, you understand that. But what to me was fascinating is that all these concepts, independent of what modern science has documented, were already very precisely defined in our scriptures. In fact, when I was studying this topic from the person I got it from, and I have told before that he's a senior banker at my bank, he kind of omitted this topic of Kala. So he said that's not very important from the point of view of understanding what the purpose of your life is. Well, I agree with that's not important, but nevertheless, for me, this was a inflection point. This was a fundamental shift in the way I used to look at these scriptures. Earlier, I used to be very skeptical about the knowledge they could possibly have had in them. But when I actually went through and studied this concept of Kala, that's when I understood that this is more than just philosophical dialogue. This is actually quite precise science. And that is why I'm doing this session with you about Kala, which in my opinion is quite important. And quite a few of you have mathematical or scientific or engineering background. So you will very much appreciate this session or this topic. At least I found this quite fascinating. In fact, when I first tried to derive this, what I call a day in life of Brahma, what is the duration of that and how long he lives, for a few days I was actually quite amazed and also in some sense disturbed with the fact that there is so much knowledge in the scriptures that actually we don't even glimpse. So that is why I'm going through this topic with you. Now, without further ado, I will actually go into the topic proper. So, Bhagavad Gita, sorry, not Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the book I told you, which has got 18,000 verses. It is actually a dialogue between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. So, in that, there is, I think I'm not 100% correct, but I think either there are 12 cantos or 18 cantos. Cantos are parts. So there are let's say 12 or 18 cantos, and within that cantos or think of it like an encyclopedia. Within that encyclopedia, the third encyclopedia or the third canto, and cantos are like this thick, literally this thick. Galina has an entire set of that in Ukraine, and I have seen they're quite thick actually. It's like Encyclopedia Britannica. So the third portion or the third in this succession, in the 11th chapter of that third encyclopedia, it talks about this concept of time. So before it talks about this concept of time, it tries to establish what an atom is. So the verse 3.11, when it says 3, that means the third book, 11th chapter, 5th verse, talks about Anu Dwa Parmanu Saya. So what it says is two atoms. Anu is atoms. Two atoms make a double atom. That's what it's saying. Then it's saying three of these double atoms make a hexaatom. So it's saying that there are atoms, two of them combine to make a double atom. Now those three of those double atoms combine to make a hexaatom. Now when I read that, now this is again what I feel. This is not written anywhere. When I read that, the first thing that came to my mind is this concept of benzene. Benzene is a fundamental structure that all life forms are essentially based on. So benzene looks like this ring I have drawn in the middle. So it's basically made of carbon and hydrogen, and the structure is like this. So I thought maybe it's talking about benzene, but it's not written anywhere. So to me, that idea of benzene hit. So that's why I think that picture there. So in this slide, we are establishing that two atoms come together, then those two atoms further come together to make six atoms in form of this ring, in form of this benzene or a hexagonal ring. Okay, and then further it says the time duration needed for integration of this two of these hexaatoms, three trana tarashini. So okay, let me explain that. So what it says is that first, assume this is the fundamental thing. This is where it begins. So when you combine three of these, then you get something else. So the time it takes for you to combine three of these, the time for it taken for the reaction for three of them to come together is called truti. That's written over here, truti. So truti is the smallest unit of time as per scripture. So how do they define truti? To define truti, they go into the concept of atom. Then they say that two atoms combine to make a double atom. Then they say that three of these two atoms combine to make a hexagonal ring like this. And then they talk about three of these hexagonal rings combining, and the time it takes for three of them to combine is 2t. That's the smallest unit of time that is mentioned in our scriptures. And how big is that? That is 10 to the power minus, that is of the order of 10 to the power minus 7 seconds. This is in modern terminologies. Now, okay, so far so interesting. What next? Then it goes on and on and on in that 11th chapter to explain you what how the time builds on from there. What are the different units of time? Some of this you might have heard or known. Lagu. Lagu means small. We know that. Mahurat. We have heard this so many times. We even joke about, right? Are you waiting for a Shubh Mahurat? Then Prahars. We have heard about Prahar. We say Dopahar. Dopahar is afternoon, right? Why is it Dopahar? We'll just come to it in a minute. Fortnight, we know what a fortnight is. It's 15 days, right? Then we know what a month is. And from month, we know what a year is. Then we know what a decade is, what a millennium is. So all that we know. So the beauty of this 11th chapter is that it starts from the smallest unit of time, which is Truti, and goes on to the biggest unit of time, which is Kalpa. Kalpa is basically 1 day of Brahma. And we'll go through that in detail now. So let me just read out this slide. I will literally be reading out, but I think it's important that I read out. I have not put the Sanskrit shloka here because you can probably go through that in your own free time. There is a link here. So if you click on this link, everything that is on the slide is actually from that link. So you can actually read it in your free time. That's Sanskrit shlokas if you're interested. So it says the duration of time of. Okay, let me just go back to the previous one first, and it makes sense. So I'll read from here. The time duration needed for integration of three trashanus is called Truti. Truti is the smallest unit of time. 100 Trutis make one Veda. 3 Vedas make one Lava. So we have come to the point of Lava now. Now then, next slide. The duration of time of 3 Lavas is equal to 1 Nimesha. And Nimesha is, by the way, is less than a second. The combination of 3 Nimeshas makes Kasna. 5 Kasnas together make Kastha. 15 Kasthas make one Laghu. Now Laghu is something which you might have heard about. Laghu means small. 15 Laghus make Nadika or Danda. 2 Dandas make one Mahurat. Mahurat also we know, right? When we say Shubh Mahurat. Shubh Mahurat means that it is in that time frame that you should do something. And that time frame, that is the idea. That when we say Mahurat, Mahurat is actually a time, it's a duration of time. 6 or 7 dandas make 1/4 of a day or night according to human calculation. So when you combine 6 or 7 dandas, then you get a day, 1/4 of a day or night. It is calculated that there are 4 prahars. So 1/4 of a day is actually prahar. So when we say dopahar, why we say dopahar? Because if you think of day as one duration, 24 hours, if you think of 24 hours as day and night, then half of that is a day and the other half is a night. So that the first half, that is a day, it has got 2 pahars. One is the morning pahar and one is the post morning pahar. So the afternoon is do pahar. Ek pahar, do pahar. Do pahar is afternoon. So that's what it's saying. It is calculated that there are 4 pahars or yamas in a day. When it says day here, then it means day and night. So and 4 in the night of human beings. So it is talking about pahars in days and nights. Okay, similarly, 15 days and nights are called a fortnight. There are 2 fortnights, white and black, in a month. So we know about this white and black, right? We say Krishna Paksh and Shukla Paksh, which is basically when the moon is visible and when the moon is not visible. So waning moon and waxing moon, that's the idea. So so far, see, from Truti, we have reached up to the point of month. Now, I may not be very fully versed about what all of these mean. Like, I don't know what Kasta is, I don't know what Kasna is, but you get the idea that it's building on that concept of time. So it's starting from that Truti and going on to that concept of month. Now, from month onwards, we kind of understand. So it says the aggregate of 2 fortnight is a month, which we know 15 days plus 15 days make a month. Then two such months comprise of a season. So when we talk about Ritu or season, so in our scriptures, 2 months make a season. So when we call Grishma Ritu, Varsha Ritu, so all those Ritus or season are comprise 2 months. Then 6 months comprise one complete movement of sun from north to south. Now we know that the earth is tilted and it goes from the sun goes from north pole to south pole, right? So we know that in north pole the sun shines for 6 months and is totally dark for the other 6 months. Similarly in the south pole, so when it's day in the north pole, it's dark in the south pole. So it's saying exactly that. And the beauty is that these are written thousands of years back. Only now in science we're establishing but this is written thousands of years back. That is why it was so fascinating for me, at least. Now it says two solar movements make one day and one night of demigods. Demigods is devas. Now this is important. What it says is that two solar movements is nothing but 6 months plus 6 months. So solar movements is when it goes from north pole to south pole. So essentially what it's saying is that 1 year in which the sun rotates around the earth rotates around the sun, which is actually saying that the sun goes from north pole to south pole, is actually a year of human life, but it is 1 day of devas. So this is interesting because now it's talking about relativity of time. So we know that on different planets or different universes, the time passes by differently. So we know this from Einstein's theory of relativity, right? That 1 second at a black hole is infinitely long, but 1 second on Earth is 1 second. 1 second on something which has a far greater gravitational pull would be longer. This is called time dilation. So this concept of time dilation, how old is it? It's only 100 years old. In 1905, Einstein came up with this theory of relativity. Barely 100 years old. But in the scriptures, it's talking about that thousands of years back. It's talking about this concept of relativity of time. So it says the time it takes for Earth to go around the sun is 1 year of human, but only 1 day for devas. That's interesting about this one. Now, let me move on now. Now, so far so good. Now the question is that if this is the unit of time, this is how we define time. How do we measure it? Like this is all fine, this is all theoretical, but is there a practical way to measure? Because you can't actually go and measure Truti. Truti is when those three of those hexaatoms combine together, but you don't have clocks which are that precise. So how do you measure? Then it says that to measure, what can you actually practically measure? You can practically measure danda. So danda or nadika is defined as if you take 6 pala weight, which is basically 14 ounces, pot of copper, and bore. So you take a pot of copper, which is made of 14 ounces, and in that you drill a hole with a gold probe, which is weighing 4 massa and is 4 fingers long. So it's actually defining you how long it needs to be. This is how we define even in modern science, right? When we say SI unit of weight or SI unit of length, when we say that 1 meter is defined as the length of that scale, which is in Paris. Yeah, that's how they say. They say it's in Sevres near Paris. There is this rod which is made of, I think it's made of iridium and platinum mixture or something like that. And that rod that they've kept in Paris, the length of that is defined as one meter. That is fundamentally how they have defined 1 meter. Similarly, they have defined 1 kilogram as well. So they say that the weight of that mass is 1 kilogram. So same thing is happening here. They are defining you how will you define danda, which is the smallest thing that you can measure. So it says that make that pot of copper, fill that with that gold stick, and fill that with water and let the water drip down. So when the water totally overflows, that's 1 danda. So it's kind of telling you how to build an hourglass in some sense. So that's what is being told in this shloka. So so far so good. So we have established the smallest unit of time up to the point where we up to 1 year, right? So we have start from the atomic scale, and we have reached to 1 year. That's only that much we have covered so far, and then there is much more in this. So, and this is how you measure time. Okay, now is the interesting bit. Now this is what I find fascinating. So we talk about Kali Yuga, and we also talk about Mahabharata and Ramayana. Without realizing how far back it is in time. So Mahabharata, probably we have some idea. We know that it's 5,000 years back. But if I ask when was Ramayana, most of us will not know. Most of us probably would say, okay, it was in Treta Yuga. But we probably don't know which Treta Yuga it was in. So that is why it's important to go through these slides. So just assume, forget about everything else that I've told so far. Forget about Kruti, forget about Nimesha, forget about Veda, forget about Danda, forget about all that. Now let's think there is something called Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is basically the time in which we are, and 5,000 years of Kali Yuga have passed. Now people often ask, so 5,000 years of Kali Yuga have passed, then how much more is left? So essentially, the Kali Yuga is 4,3200 human years. So you see this number here, 432,000, which is basically 4.3 million years. Divide that by 10. So half a million years, roughly half a million years is actually how Kali Yuga is. So when people are telling you Kali Yuga is going to end soon, it's just so ignorant. You don't even know, you don't understand the concept of time. You don't understand the scale of time, because only 5,000 years have passed. There is no end to Kali Yuga coming anytime soon. We are talking about half a million years. Out of that, only 5,000 years has passed. Okay, only 1% of that has passed. That's the scale. Okay, so there is 99% of Kali Yuga which is still left. So now assume that Kali Yuga is the smallest unit of time. Now I'm saying that assume that 4,3200 years of humans is the smallest unit of time. And why I'm saying that is the smallest unit of time is because when we go on and build this concept of time, you will see how intricate this is, how time is now being built into the upper ladders. So now earlier we discussed about how small time scales. Now we are going to build up on the bigger time scales. So 1200, this is 12,000, but let's not go into that for a minute. So let me just go here on the last line over here. So it says Kali Yuga is equal to 1,000 plus 100 plus 100 divine years. So basically what it's saying is that Kali Yuga, or which is basically the Yuga of Kali Yuga, the time of Kali, actually has 1,200 divine years. So 1,200 divine, or the 1,200 years of Devas is equal to a Kali Yuga. And we said that 1 day of Deva is equal to 1 year of humans. We established that in the previous slide, right? When I said that the time it takes for Earth to rotate around the sun, that is 1 year of human, but for Devas, that is only 1 day. Now, everywhere in this calculation, the lifetime of every jiva or every soul or every living entity, whether it's humans or Devas or Brahma or whatever, is assumed to be 100 years. So what do 100 years have? So there is a day. Day is, we understand the concept of day. Then 30 days make a month, and then 12 of these months make a year, and 100 of such years is your lifetime. That is the broad idea. So human being live for 100 years. Now, if you divide 100 years by 100, you get 1 year. 1 year, if you divide into 12 parts, you get a month. You divide that 12 month by 30, you get a day. So what it's saying is that Kali Yuga has 1,200 divine years. Now, 1,200 divine years is in terms of Deva years. So what does it mean in terms of human years? So as I said, that the scaling factor is that 1 day of Deva is equal to 1 year of humans. So 1 year of humans has how many days? 1 year of human has 12 months and 30 days, right? 12 months, and each month has 30 days. So you multiply 12 into 30, you get 360. So what it's saying is that 1 year of humans have 360 days. So if I were to convert this 1,200 years of Devas into human years, I will have to multiply this with 360. So when I multiply that by 360, I get 432,000, which is 4,3200 years. Okay, which is roughly 500,000 years. So what it is saying is that 1 Kali Yuga is 500,000 years, roughly. Now, here is the important thing. So there is Satya, Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. You might have heard about this, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. Now, these yugas are in the ratio of 4:3:2:1. So, if you assume that Kali Yuga is 1, the duration of Kali Yuga is 1, then the duration of Dwapar Yuga is twice of that, and the duration of duration of Treta Yuga is 3 times that, and the duration of Satya Yuga is 4 times that. So that's the concept. Now, if you add 4, 3, 2, 1, you will get 10. Okay, and that duration, which is 10 times the duration of Kali Yuga, which is basically by adding all these Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga, is called Mahayuga. So that is one Mahayuga. So far, do you understand? So what I'm trying to say is that there is one Kali Yuga, and if we assume Kali Yuga is the smallest unit of time, if you assume that, if you assume that Kali Yuga is the smallest thing that you can measure, or smallest thing that you can visualize, then when you have 10 such duration, then that is one Mahayuga. In one Mahayuga, what happens? In one Mahayuga, you have cycles of 4 yugas, which is basically Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So that is why it says 12,000 divine years is equal to one Mahayuga. So this is basically 10 times the duration of one Kali Yuga, which will translate to 4.3 million human years. Okay, that is the duration of one Mahayuga. So that is all we have established here, that Kali Yuga is 500,000 years, and Mahayuga is roughly 5 million years. So that is what we are talking about here. Now let's move on. So why is this important? So this is important because okay, I'll come back to this slightly later, but for now, just assume that, okay, let me just go on to the previous one. Okay, so let me just go back to the slide which was there in the beginning, so it will make sense. Okay, now let's look at this. So one day of Brahma is called Kalpa. So where is Kalpa? I'll just, okay, nice. So you see this, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but if you can see right in the middle, this small section, this is one day of Brahma, okay? And this is the entire life of Brahma. The entire life of Brahma is 1 trillion years, and we'll derive this actually. So this is one day of Brahma. In this one day of Brahma, you have 14 Manvantara. So divide that one day of Brahma into 14 parts. So Manvantara, Mana is basically Manu, and Antara means different. So Manvantara basically means the Antara means different. So the difference between two Manus. So in some sense, the duration of one Manu life. So Manvantara is basically duration of or lifetime of one Manu. Manu is in some sense primordial human. Okay. So if you so essentially what it's saying is that in one day, and this is not night, just day, in one day of Brahma or one kalpa of Brahma, 14 Manus are changed, or 14 Manus live and die. Okay, so 14 of them come and die. That is what is happening in one day of Brahma, just one day. And then in that one day of Brahma, there are those 14 parts, and let's look at now one of those 14. So now I'm zooming into this. So when I zoom into this 14, one of these 14, when I zoom into this, these are further divided into 71 parts. So what it is saying is that one Manvantara is nothing but 71 Mahayugas or Divya Yugas. So that when I talked about the concept of Mahayuga, so when you multiply that Mahayuga into 71, that's when you get one of this Manvantara. Now when you multiply that into 14, that's when you get one day of Brahma. So that's essentially what it's saying. So again, now let's zoom over here. So now when you look at this 71 Yuga cycle, Mahayuga, so when you zoom into that, what does one Mahayuga or one Divya Yuga have? So in one Mahayuga, you have Satyug, you have Treta Yuga, you have Dwapar Yuga, and you have Kali Yuga. So that's what I was saying, right? So if you assume Kali Yuga is the smallest unit of time, then 10 times bigger than that is Mahayuga. And then when you multiply that into 71, then you get one Manvantara. When you multiply that into 14, you get one Kalpa or one day of Brahma, and then one day of Brahma, and then there is also one night of Brahma, which is equally long. And then when you multiply that with with the life of Brahma, which is 100 years, and those 100 years further have 12 months and 30 days, then you will get the entire lifetime of Brahma, which is basically the lifetime of the universe. Okay, so that's what is there. So now let me just go through that formally. So what is happening over here is that, okay, let me just go to the previous slide first. So you must have also heard of this concept of pralaya. Pralaya is basically destruction. So what happens is when you are transitioning from Satya Yuga to Dwapar Yuga or to Treta Yuga, there essentially is no pralaya. It's a very gradual transition. You will not come to know about it. So it's not like great floods are happening or great destruction is happening or great earthquake is happening. That doesn't happen from one yuga to the next yuga. In fact, in the book that I was talking about, that Srimad Bhagavad, Bhagavad Puran, in that book, Parikshit Maharaj actually came to know that Kali Yuga has come because Kali personified came, and that's how he met that guy, and that's how he knew that Kali Yuga has come. So it was not like there was signs that earthquake or flood, nothing of that sort happens when one yuga is changing to the next. But when Mahayuga is changing, that means when one this duration of 12 yugas is changing, then there is small destruction, small insignificant destruction. And I'll tell you why I say small insignificant. So think of it like a big flood, or there's Noah's Ark or something like that happens, right? So that's the concept at least. Now we move on to this slide. So in this slide, what we are saying is that the same thing which I discussed previously. So there is Manvantara. Manvantara is basically those 71 yuga cycles, 71 Mahayuga cycles that happen. So those 71 Mahayugas will actually be 710 Kali Yuga duration. That is what it is, because I said, right, that one Mahayuga is 10 Kali Yuga duration. So 710 Kali Yuga duration happen in one Manvantara. But there is also something else that happens. So you see, there is this cutoff, this cuts here, this cuts here. So, the transition is gradual. So from here to here, there will be a gradual shift. From here to here, there will be a gradual shift. So this gradual shift is called Sandhya. Sandhya, as you know, in Hindi is called evening. So think of it like a Sandhya or an evening. This Sandhya is happening. So what is happening in this Sandhya? In this Sandhya, the universe is getting partially destroyed, only partially, okay, not fully. So what you think of it like some small black hole or something is engulfing some part of the galaxy, but then other parts of the galaxy are still around. So it's a partial destruction, not a full destruction. So when we talk about Tandav that Shiva is doing, right? So Shiva is invoked to do that destruction actually. So some destruction is happening at the galaxy level, right? Not at the universe level, at the galaxy level. Okay. So how do we understand this? What is actually going on? So as I said that Brahma, there is one day of Brahma. In that one day of Brahma, 14 Manvantaras are there. And then there is Sandhya. Sandhya is like evening. So think of that Sandhya as a power nap. So in this Sandhya, this Brahma is actually taking a power nap, quick power nap. So that quick power nap, how long is that duration? So each power nap is 4 Kali Yuga duration. So two on this side and 2 on the other side. So two on this side and 2 on that side. So two in the beginning and 2 in the end. So why the beginning and why the end? So in the ending, the black hole is sucking everything, right? And when the rise is happening, then it's emitting out. So that's the idea at least. Okay, so partially the galaxies are being created and being destroyed. So that's when Brahma is taking a power nap, not sleeping, only taking a power nap. So how many times Brahma takes a power nap in his day? He takes a power nap. He takes power nap 15 times. Okay, so what is happening is that 15 times there is a partial destruction, partial creation. We call this pralaya. Okay, so far I hope you understand. I know it's a bit complicated, but I hope you are understanding what is happening. So there is Manvantara at the end of each and the beginning of each Manvantara, there is partial destruction, partial creation. So that is what is happening so far. Okay, then we move on. Okay. In one day, again, I've written the same thing here. In one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras and 15 Sandhyas, power naps, which come and go like cycles, like phases. It's like, you take a white paper and take a black paper and try to arrange them. And the way you will arrange, it's like, like we have waning and waxing moon. Like we have Krishna Paksh and Shukla Paksh, when the moon is rising and the moon is fading, right? So, but the difference over here is that when the moon is rising and fading, both of them are equal duration, 15 days, 15 days. Over here, they're not equal duration. So the rising part or the active part of the universe is 710 Kali Yuga duration long, and the non-active part is 4 Kali Yuga duration long. So that 4 is that Sandhya that I talked they're not equal. So in when we talk about a month, when we talk about the waxing moon and the waning moon, then it's equal, right? Over here it's not equal. So it's the active part is 710 and the non-active part is 4. Okay, so that's what is happening. Now, when you put all that together, what happens? So there are, as I said, there are 14 manvantaras. You multiply that 14 with 710, then you reach 9940. And then when you multiply 15 multiplied by 4, you reach 60. Now when you add all of that, you get 1000 Mahayuga duration or 10,000 Kali Yuga duration. What does that mean? That means that in one day of Brahma, just one day, in one day of Brahma, there are 10,000 Kali Yugas. There are 1,000 Mahayugas that elapse. Now imagine that. So that is just one day of Brahma. That entire thing is one day of Brahma, in which thousands of Mahayugas, 10,000 Kali Yuga durations pass. So that is just one day of Brahma. So that, why was I telling you all this? Just to explain you the scale of time when we talk about things. Okay. Now, so nobody gave me these slides. I had kind of done these calculations from first principle when I read those lines in Bhagavad Puran. So initially, when I was doing these calculations, I got stuck here. I'm just telling this as a side note. So I was able to multiply 14 by 710. Initially, I was stuck here actually. So I was doing some wrong calculation. I was actually putting Sandhya and Manvantara as equal duration. And that was because I kind of understood it in the way we understand the waning and waxing moon. So I was reaching wrong numbers. What I knew is that one kalpa or one day of Brahma has 1000 Mahayugas. So I was not reaching this 1000. So then I read further. Then I actually realized that this Sandhya is only 4 Kali Yuga duration long, and it's not 710 Kali Yuga duration long. So I made some correction over here. So I put this as 4. And then I was still putting 14 here. So then I was falling short of 4. So I was getting 996. I was not getting 1000. So again, it took me a few days to actually realize that although there are 14 manvantara, when you're putting it in a circle, you actually need to put a 15th one so that the circle completes. So again, it was a realization for me. Now, why was this so interesting for me is because, as I've said, for me, it has been a journey, right? So initially, I used to take all this scriptural knowledge or whatever is written. I used to discount that heavily because at some point, I wanted to be a theoretical physicist. So I have studied physics in some detail. So from that point of view, and I majored in photonics, where you study the properties of light. That was my undergrad in. So from that point of view, I had a assumption or a belief that modern science explains all this beautifully, and that is the complete science, and there is nothing beyond, nothing more. So when I actually studied this, when I actually came across this, I was amazed that there is a parallel way of discussing these things. So for me, that was the realization. For me, that was bewildering. At least that actually then piqued my interest into reading more about scriptures. Other than that, I used to purely look at from a philosophical point of view, not so much from scientific point of view. And when this happened, then I kind of was convinced that the scriptures or Bhagavad Gita in particular is actually indeed a set of frameworks and laws. And again, what was interesting for me is that they did not pick easy numbers. They did not, I mean, even if you assume that some smart guy wrote this, and this is not divine or this is not coming from top, the beauty is that they're not using round numbers like 10, like how we do now. We define nanosecond as, when we are dividing time now, we'll divide by 100, right? We simply do it that way. But look at these guys. They're dividing it by 71. They are having a factor of 14. They're having strange numbers. And somehow those strange numbers add up to make 1,000, right? So it's not random numbers that they're putting there. So they're not using easy numbers. They could have easily said that, okay, one day of Brahma has 10 manvantara. So why are they using 14? Why not use 10? Why use something like 71 Divyuga? Why not use 100 Divyugas? So that would have made things easier. Because they're not trying to make it easy. They are just stating it probably the way it is. So that was fascinating. The other thing that was fascinating for me is that if you look at one Kali Yuga duration, and I've said this previously, that one Kali Yuga duration is 4,3200 years. Now, if you look at the amount of time it takes for the Milky Way to go around the whole. So we live in Milky Way. Milky Way is the galaxy where we live, and this Milky Way is going around. So the sun is somewhere at the edge of the Milky Way, and it's just like the Earth goes around the sun. The entire solar system goes around the Milky Way, and in the center of the Milky Way is a massive black hole. So when this whole solar system is going around this Milky Way, the amount of time it takes for that is uh, is 200 million years. So that's a scale of time. So now, if you look at the Kali Yuga duration, it's half a million years. So now, what is what is fascinating for me, I'm not 100% sure if it's 200 million years or if it's 200,000 years. I'll have to check that. But essentially what I'm coming to that is that factor is kind of matching. Yeah, it's kind of double, but then the order of scale is there. And that leads me to think that when we have seasons on this planet, when we have summers, when we have winters, when we have spring, there is nothing but Earth going around the sun, and we know that the orbit is not perfectly circular, right? And then there is a tilt in the axis of Earth. That small tilt is causing these seasons. So what I'm trying to say here is that if that small tilt is causing that seasons, it is not very difficult to assume that that small tilt or that small difference in the way the solar system is arranged around the Milky Way is probably causing all these yugas. It's probably causing this Kali Yuga or Satyug or whatever other yugas are there. So that is what the concept I'm trying to think aloud with you. Maybe that is what is happening. And what are the properties of Kali Yuga, Satyug, Mahayuga? So what it says is that in every yuga, the human potency decreases by the factor of 10. So what it means is that in Dwapar Yuga, which was just before this yuga, humans had a lifetime of 1,000 years, which is 10 times this year. Then in the yuga previous to that which is the yuga which is basically Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga, the lifetime was again multiplied by 10, so which is 10,000 years. And then in Sata Yuga, the life duration was again multiplied by 10 of that, which is basically 100,000 years. So we know that Ramayana happened in Treta Yuga, and in that Treta Yuga, we say that Ravana was actually praying to Shiva for 1,000 years. And then you may wonder, how can he pray for 1,000 years? The human being only lived 100 years. Because 1,000 years in that Yuga, in that Yuga, human being used to live for 10,000 years. So in 10,000 years, this guy has spent 1/10 of his life praying to Shiva to get the boons, so that he was an equal match to Rama. He was praying for 1/10 of life, so that he could get all the weapons, all the knowledge to fight with Rama. Right? I mean, when you're fighting, you need to fight with equals, right? You can't just fight with Rama will not come and fight with a tiny hand, right? He has to fight with somebody who is his equal. So the concept is that everything multiplies by 10. So not just human life, but also your memory, also your potency, also your strength. So that is why you see a lot of these scriptures, we say it's Shruti. Shruti means somebody speaking, and then there is Smriti. Smriti is somebody's remembering. So all of this was passed on. There was no written. So at that time, probably human had, that is the idea, that humans had, their memory was sharper. So in this yuga, we are losing our memory. So we have to write down things. I have to make things from the slides. Sometimes I'm reading from the slides because I don't remember all of this from the top of my head, because my memory is not as good as probably when somebody was born in Satyuga. So that's conceptually what it is, that everything goes down by a factor of 10. So again, I'll move on. So for me, it took me about a day to come up with this number. As I said, I was going into all sorts of long calculations. And then finally, I achieved this 100,000 Mahayuga duration. And then I cross-checked with other books, other literature on internet. And then, I mean, nowhere it was derived like this, but when I cross-checked here and there, then I was kind of fully convinced that my numbers are correct. I still have debates on this with some people, and I've cross-checked with quite a few, I think more than a dozen of people who understand Sanskrit, who are well-versed in this. And more or less, I'm convinced that this is how it is. This is what the numbers that I presented to you are actually indeed the correct numbers. Okay. So what have we discussed so far? So in one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras and 15 Sandhyas. One day of Brahma is called Kalpa or Aeon in English. So what happens the next day? The next day is Brahma. The next day Brahma is sleeping. So just like we work and then we sleep. So what happens when he's sleeping? When he's sleeping, the universe is totally destroyed. That's now how I view that. I think of it as the Big Bang. The Big Bang in modern science is where the universe was created, and the big crunch is when everything will be collapsing and disappearing. So the next day when Brahma is sleeping, the whole universe is collapsing. The whole universe is this is called this is actually the true pralaya, the great destruction. That's when everything is getting destroyed. There is nothing that is around. So when Brahma dies, universe is fully destroyed. Fully destroyed is important. So in this, so in all there are four pralayas or four destructions. Mini destruction at the end of each Mahayuga, which I talked about. Partial destruction after each Manvantara. Destruction when Brahma is sleeping. So when Brahma is sleeping, there is full destruction. And then, when Brahma is sleeping, there is destruction, but again, not a full destruction. Full destruction. Full destruction will happen when Brahma dies. So Brahma also dies. Okay. So every life form dies. Every life form has a duration of 100 years. They live for 100 years, but 100 years on their planet. So in Brahma's planet, as I've already mentioned, one day is equal to 1,000 Mahayugas. And in those terms, he lives for 100 years. That's why Brahma lives for much longer than you and I do. Okay, so that is what is happening. So Brahma lives for 100 years. His 1 year has 12 months. 1 month has 30 days. 1 day is called Kalpa. Kalpa is 10,000 Kali Yuga duration or 1,000 Mahayuga duration. So when I do this in live class, I actually tell people to derive this. So when they multiply all this, they will actually come up with that number of 301 trillion years. So Brahma lived for 301 trillion years, which is in other words saying that so Brahma is the creator of universe, that we know. So it means that Brahma lives for 301 trillion years, which in other words is saying that universe is 300, the duration of universe, this universe that we live in is 301 trillion years. But there are many such universes. So there are many such universes all around, and all of them will have the same math. But then again, their 1 second will be different from our 1 second, because the gravitational pull and everything else will be different in those universes. So the universe in which we live is four-dimensional. That's why we call it Chaturmukhi. Chaturmukhi means four-mouth Brahma. So the four-mouth represent dimension. So he has 3 dimensions of space, which is length, breadth, and height, and 1 dimension of time. But then there are other universes which have more than 4 dimensions. So that's what it is. Now, if you have been baffled for so far, then here is an interesting bit. That Brahma, that whole 301 trillion years of Brahma, is actually nothing but 1 nimesha of Vishnu. 1 nimesha basically is cycle of, think of it like breathing and breathing of Brahma. So every time breathing of Vishnu. So Vishnu, when he is breathing out, exhaling, that's when the universe has multiple millions and billions and trillions of universes are created. Multiple millions and billions and trillions of Brahmas are creating these universes. And once he is inhaling, all these are getting sucked in and getting destroyed. So that is what is happening. That is conceptually what is happening. So can you imagine all this that I've talked to you so far about in trillion of years time is just essentially one. I mean, you can take it as a crude analogy. It's called nimesha of Vishnu, or nimesha you can roughly take as breath of Vishnu. So Vishnu is breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. So breathing in, breathing out is creating and destroying that universe, or not this universe, but millions of universes and billions of universes around. So that is what is happening now. Now, if you see, I will explain a bit of this picture. So in this picture, I think that is Lakshmi. Galina can correct me if I'm wrong. And there is Vishnu. So Vishnu is in the state of partial slumber, and he's sleeping on this snake, on this ocean. And this is, I think the snake or the ocean, one of them is called Anant. Anant means something which never ends. So this is what is happening. And from his navel, this guy who is coming out is Brahma. And this is just one Brahma is being depicted here, but actually in reality, the concept is that billions and millions and trillions of Brahmas are being created and coming out from his navel. So this Brahma is sitting over here. And when this Brahma was created, he was the first jiva or the first soul when we talked about the concept of soul, right? So this is the guy who is the first jiva or first soul, and this guy who is Brahma, he's the first creation. That's the idea. Now this guy, now when he's born, he's having the same question that we have: who am I? Where did I come from? Where was I born? So he saw that there is on this lotus flower there is this stalk. You see this green thing which is going down. So he started like he imagined that if he keeps going down, 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 then ultimately he will reach the end and he will figure out where he came from. So he started doing that, started going down, 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 down. But sooner or later he realized that there is no end to this. So he realized this is endless or infinite. So he couldn't figure out where that is. Then when he realized that, then he started, so like we do, right? First we try to explore things externally, like happiness or like who we are, where we came from, all these concepts. So we try to look for answers outside, even happiness, we try to look for it outside. Then when we are convinced that there is no happiness outside, what do? We look inwards. So this guy started looking inwards, started thinking, started looking inwards. So the moment he started looking inwards, that's when he saw Vishnu, the creator. And then that Vishnu actually gave him those, that that Bhagavad Puran, the book that I'm talking about, from which all this time and everything is derived. He gave it to Brahma, all those 18,000 shlokas, and not in that form, not like 18,000 shlokas, but he gave it to him in 4 seed shlokas, or chatur shlokas as we say. So he gave him the 4 seed shlokas, and from that he, Brahma being a smart and intelligent guy, expanded that knowledge into 18,000 shlokas. He understood all those 18,000 shlokas just from those 4 shlokas. That's the idea. And then so on and so forth. And Brahma gave it to his son Narada, and then there is the entire succession and how it came to Ved Vyasa and Sukdev Goswami, and Sukdev Goswami gave it to Parikshit Maharaj, who is the grandson of Arjuna. So that is what is happening. So anyway, so this guy got that knowledge, and that knowledge is basically what I'm passing you now. The concept of time and concept of what else, right? So that is in theory what is happening here at least. Okay. So what else is here? So now apart from this, now we talked about time. So we understand time. So there is another very beautiful slide. This is about how big the universe is. So there is this. I think maybe some of you would have seen this. So there is a girl. She's sitting in a lawn, and then it zooms into her eye, and then it goes from the smallest to the biggest. So when you have time, you can play this. I would not hazard playing that because my computer will crash. So so you can essentially go through that. So now important thing, or the question that we may always ask is that, so where are we in time? So you talked about so much about 3 in 1 trillion years, this, that, and the other. So where are we? Where are we now? So look at it like this. Brahma lives for 100 years. Okay, so every year he celebrates his birthday. So if Brahma lived for 100 years, yesterday was his birthday. Yesterday he celebrated his 50th birthday. He's right in the middle. He's a middle-aged guy. And today is his first day of the 51st year. So today is his first day after completing 50 years. That's where we are. Within that that first day after completing his 50th birthday, we are in the 7th Manvantara. So I told you, right, there are 14 Manvantaras, and within that he is right in the 7th Manvantara. So right in the middle of the day. It's like right in the afternoon. That is 12 p.m. That is where we are. In that, and I said that in Manvantaras have 70, each Manvantara has 71 cycles, right? So in that 71 cycle, we are in the 28th cycle. Again, why not choose a fancy number like 72 divided by 2 is 36? Why not say 36 cycle? Why not say 35 cycle? Why 28 cycle? Yeah, because it's actually documented that way. So see, again, I keep saying that these are not random numbers. There must be a reason. I'm not so learned, but I'm sure in some other Purana, some other place, it explained why 28th cycle, and what happened in the previous cycle, what happened in the cycle before, what was the first cycle, all that will be documented somewhere. So right now we are in the 20th cycle. In fact, there is another Purana which is called Bhavishya Purana. So Bhavish means future. So in Bhavishya Purana, they talk about what is going to happen in the future cycles. So you can actually measure some things that are happening now against that Purana. Against that Purana, you can see that whether whatever is written there is actually happening or not. So I am not that learned. I have not gone through that, but scholars have done that. So we are in that 28th cycle. Okay, within that 28th cycle, where are we? So I said, right, every cycle has those four yugas. So you have Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug. So within that cycle, we are in the Kali Yuga. So 28th cycle, we are in Kali Yuga. So out of those in that Kali Yuga cycle, 5,000 years have passed. So that's where we are. Okay, just to give you an idea. So Krishna actually just came 5,000 years back. So in that sense, he's a contemporary of ours. He's just around, right? It's not that Krishna came very very long time ago in the scale of time. So that's the idea. Okay. So now, finally, people often say Mahabharata and Ramayana, and people have idea of Mahabharata being spoken 5,000 years back or happening 5,000 years back. But when they say Ramayana happened in Treta Yuga, and when they say Treta Yuga, probably they assume that it's just the Yuga before Krishna came. But that is not how it is. It is actually in 24th cycle. So it's 4 cycle removed. It's not that yes, Rama came in Treta Yuga, but not in this cycle. In 4 cycles previous. So it's like that. Okay. So essentially that is what is happening. So now how do I calculate how many years back it was? So what you do is, as I said, that one Mahayuga it has got 10 Kali Yuga duration, right? So let's say that one Mahayuga has 4.3 million years, which is here. So you divide that into 10 parts. So Mahabharata happened, as we know, just at the beginning of Kali Yuga. So it will happen somewhere at 28.9. That's Mahayuga cycle. That's where Mahabharata will happen. And Ramayana, as I said, happened at the end of Treta Yuga. So that means it's happening at uh, wait a minute. This is wrong. It should be 24.6, because you have to account for one Kali Yuga duration and three. No, I think it's correct. So because there will be, okay, this is correct. So you will have basically a Sata Yuga, which is past, which is 4. Then you will have Treta Yuga, which is past, which is 3. So it will be 24.7. So after 24, so Ramayana happened at 24.7 Mahayuga duration, right? So if you take a difference of these two, so you get that Mahabharata and Ramayana happened at 4.2 Mahayuga duration apart. So when you multiply 4.2 with 4.3 million years, plus you add 5,000 years back when Mahabharata happened, you will roughly get 18 million years ago. So Ramayana happened actually 18 million years ago. So when people say that, oh, you're talking about Krishna and you're talking about Ramayana, but where is the proof? Show me where it is. Show me the fossils. Show me the history. That's kind of joke to me, because in modern science terms, what is the oldest fossil we have been able to find? We only say that humans have been around for 50,000 years or something like that. I mean, somewhere around that number, right? So we are talking about millions of years here. So we are talking about different yuga cycles. So that's the beauty, right? So when you say we can't find this, we can't verify it, before you say that, please try to understand the scale of time it's talking about. And when you understand the scale of time, only then you can understand whether those facts happened or didn't happen, whether they are verifiable or not verifiable through modern means. Maybe at some point in time, science gets advanced and they are able to find out what happened 18 million years ago, and then maybe they will be able to verify these things. But as of now, we don't have the technology to verify what happened 18 million years ago. We literally do not have that technology. So that's why we are not able to verify. That's why we do not. That's why we don't have fossils of Rama and Arjuna and whatnot, right? We don't have anybody from that period. So at least conceptually you get it, right? So now when people tell you Ramayana, you know that it's 18 million years back. So that's all I had to speak about today. So I hope it was. I'm not sure if it was boring, but I went through a lot of numbers. So if you have any questions, if anything you'd like to clarify, I'm happy to take questions. Again, as I said, time is in some sense a synonym for death, because time or kala or kal is actually saying that everything will end. So time is something that prevents everything from ending at once. So that's the concept largely. So if you have any questions, any comments, any realizations, any anecdotes, happy to hear them out. So any questions, any realizations, any comments? Have you gone through this before? This is the first time you're seeing it? I don't hear anybody. So either everything was clear or everything just bounced off the head.
Rahul, I have a question.
Yeah, Jay.
So, okay, going after the fact that, it's really interesting the time period that you gave for Ramayana and others. And when people say that there is a historical fact, archaeological evidence that Rama was born in Ayodhya, and that, there are like these Ramayana tours that is organized in Sri Lanka. And so would you kind of say that then it's just maybe rhetoric and might not be accurate when you really compare it to the time frame given in the scriptures?
Yeah, so this is interesting, right? So I have not been able to reconcile that myself. So if you see there is tectonic plates, the Indians are something merged into the Asiatic plates some millions of years back. I have to go back and check when that happened. So, so what happens in science that I have gone through that through this in the first lesson that there are three ways of moving. So there is a Pratyaksha Praman. Pratyaksha is something that you can necessarily observe. Then there is Anuman Praman, which is estimating. And then there's Shabda Praman. So scriptures are Shabda Praman. So they are saying that this is, you believe it as given. Now, whether you can do it or not using modern scientific method, that's a question of speculation. Now, when we say that, like for example, the age of Earth maybe has 2.5 billion years. Life on Earth is 3.8 billion years. And then they say that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. Now, universe is 13.8 billion years old, but then there are stars in this that we know, which actually from all the scientific methods we have, whether you are using spectrography or whatever else you are measure, point that those stars are older than the so-called the universe itself. So the way we measure the time period of the universe is by CMB, cosmic microwave radiation. So super cosmic background radiation. So that radiation gives the time of the universe as 8 billion light years, and lights, 10.8 billion years, light years. So, so if that is true, then how are you having stars which are saying that, which are coming up with calculation of more than 14 billion years? So, what I'm trying to say here is that whether modern science can prove or disprove is a lot of speculation there, right? So, we always try in science, the way it progresses, we try to find something, we most of it is guesstimate, right? It's not actually hardcore. Can you convincingly say that today modern science says that the age of Earth is 4.5 billion years, that 10 years and do not revise that number? So all these numbers I would take with all in both scientific. So when you say that Ayodhya was there, so the Ayodhya that you know of today, where incidentally I have to be born, this only I think 500 years back, or I think there was something, or somebody came and said, okay, this is where Ayodhya was, because he said that all the signs of Ayodhya are here. Vrindavan, which is where Krishna and most some place in Mathura, and that was actually again like 400 years back or something like that. Certain Mahaprabhu came there and he said, okay, it seems like this is where Krishna was born. So all these places that you know as modern day Ayodhya, modern day Mathura, I'm not 100% sure that these are the exact places where actually that happened. Now, Lanka or Sri Lanka that you mentioned, again, I will have to go back and see when did that Indian plate merge into that Asiatic plate, which actually caused the Mount Everest Himalayas to come. Like even now we know that Mount Everest is rising every year because the plate is pushing. That's why you have too many earthquakes in that region. Yes, the earthquake there, right? So because that tectonic plate is very fragile. It keeps pushing into the air. So to answer your question directly, uh, I'm not 100% sure that the numbers that science is giving is the correct numbers. And when they say, okay, we have flown round Cebu connecting from India to Sri Lanka, uh, again, more work has to be done on establishing when that was there and in what period that was there. I'm not 100% sure. Does that answer you?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions somebody has or any other realizations?
Rahul, this is Naveen here. So, one question, because like when we say now we are in the noon part of, like you had mentioned it. So now we are in Kali Yuga. So does it also happen? The cycle goes back from Kali Yuga to Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and
Yeah.
Sat Yuga, because I read somewhere that it goes into a cycle. So
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So in Buddhism, they talk about cycle, right? And if you go to a Buddhist temple, there are these wheels that they keep turning, and they say that life is cycle. So if you look at the entire Gita, it's nothing but talking about cycles. So it's talking about cycle of birth and death, that is samsara. It's talking cycle of universe being created and destroyed, cycle of deva, cycle of Indra going from all these demigods there. As I said in my class, a few years ago, might become Indra and not become an ant. And the same ant will become Indra at some point, and then Indra will become an ant. So yes, all these cycles repeat. So if you see the slide that is on the screen right now. So I said 71 Yuga cycle. So what will happen here? So in the beginning there is Satyuga, then Treta, then Dwapar, then Kaliuga, and the cycle repeats. Then after this Kaliuga, Satyuga will come, but it will not come tomorrow. It will not come in 5,000 years. It will come in 4,200 years minus 5,000 years, which means it will come in 4,2700 years later, not immediately. So that time Satyuga will come again. So as I was saying, that there are seasons, like the whole solar system goes around the Milky Way. So I think with the seasons, so and then the path in which it goes around is not perfectly circle. So I'm guessing when it's closer to the Milky Way, then maybe something is happening because more energy is coming from the center of the Milky Way. People are more fire, people are more fires, whatever, right? And when it goes away, then Kali is happening. So this is only how it's happening. It's going in circles. So you're absolutely right. All of these cycles get repeated. So when Rama is day is happening, night is happening, the same thing is getting repeated. Then he dies, then comes back. So everything is cycle. So it's on getting repeated. All this. So everything is cycle. So I don't need to go up to 50 and I want to atoms. So those things will again keep repeating. So it's an endless cycle. I think that's a scriptural view. So when people ask, when was universe created, how was it created? By the way, when I talked about that entire universe getting annihilated when the Maharaj, the full destruction, the concept of time itself finishes at that point. There is no concept of time. There is no concept of dimension. All the dimensions finish, including the dimension of time. So the idea is that universe has always been and always will be, just that it shrinks and expands, shrinks and expands. So within that shrinking and expanding of universe, all these time cycles happen. This the Dharma happens, this Nanda happens, this Vidya happens, this Satyuga happens, Kaliyuga happens. So all those cycles keep repeating. And within those cycles, the humans are born, the humans getting born as one human or one life form to another life form, everything keeps repeating. So does that answer you?
yeah, it perfectly answers. So I mean, basically, because as you mentioned that in the Satyug and Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga, and the humans, I mean, the people were much more advanced in Satyug, and then it reduced a little bit in Treta. So I mean, that means that Kali Yuga, now the people would get more evolved moving forward, like, and of course the millions of years.
No. People will not get more evolved. So again, this is again the confusion which comes from imposing the modern day biology over this time scale. So look at this carefully. It says 4,200 years. Now, as far as my memory serves me, modern biology establishes Homo sapiens to be I think around 50,000 years. 50,000 years is just a little over here. So according to modern science, humanity only came around 50,000 years back. They definitely did not come around half a million years back. Even the Homo erectus, Neanderthal, and all the other forms of apes, did not come around that time. And I think the age of dinosaur is somewhere in the millions of years. So when we talk about Rama was there, we are easily going into the realm when the dinosaurs were around. So now, so when you talk about we are evolving, actually we are not evolving, and this evolution, by the way, and I have to put this time and again, is not from biological point of view. Every evolution that is talked about in the scripture is from the consciousness point of view. So from consciousness point of view, the human consciousness is actually decreasing. So in Satyuga, people were true or Satya. They were Satya personified, right? So they were more truthful. Nowadays, it's more deceitful. But still, this 5,000 years where we are right now, it's just when Krishna vanished. It's considered the golden period. So in this period, you will still have some proper way of doing things. Over time, this will keep on deteriorating, and this is not just in Hinduism, but all religions talk about it. So in Hinduism, we talk about this Kalki coming, right? So what will Kalki do? So Kalki will come and destroy the whole world around. We kill all humans because all the humans are have degraded to such an extent that there is no point of having these humans. So I guess you come and destroy. And there is the same concept in Bible, right? It talks about the second coming of Christ. So Christ will come and then he will destroy the Antichrist and he will destroy the world. Then I think in Islam it talks about Mahdi. Mahdi will come and destroy the whole world. So in all of these scriptures, they talk about deteriorating of human consciousness, and which we see around, right? More and more corruption happens, more and more wrong things happen, more and more crime is happening. So it ultimately is deteriorating. It's not improving. Now, to answer your questions, when will it improve? As you rightly said, it's a cycle. So as they say, the night is the darkest with the sunrise. So it will keep on decreasing, and suddenly from when it is destroyed, there is suffering, which is over here. It will start evolving again. So when they start evolving again, then you will again get light, and then you will again get the right type of people. Then again from there, it will peak somewhere here. Then you start decreasing. Then when it comes to Kali, everything will start decreasing. Think of it like an exponential graph. So if I would plot the goal like this, it will peak somewhere in the middle of Satyuga, then it will peak, then it will go down. Then it will have a very narrow but long tail. So the tail will keep going long, and then end somewhere in Satyuga. So and this graph that I'm drawing to you is representing not just consciousness, but also how long humans will live, how much consciousness will be, how righteous they will be, everything. That is according to scripture. This is not something I'm making. Now, can you verify it using scientific methods? Again, I will say that our science, that as we know, is fairly from the time of the radio, I think it was 400 years old, 3 years old only. So we haven't established. I mean, we have to go much more back into the past to explore this entire time scale to convincingly say whether this happens or doesn't happen. So at the moment, scientifically, this is where we become the Shoma. We are barely scratching the surface of what we know from a scientific point of view. So science has a lot of grounds to cover to either prove what is true, but whatever is there in the scripture. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps. Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more realizations? We're almost reaching 1 p.m. in Singapore, so I don't want to be within you and your lunch. So, anybody has any final thoughts? Otherwise, we'll conclude the session.
Yeah, hi Rahul. I'll quickly share a couple of realizations I've had. So first of all, amazing session. Thanks for this. Thanks for doing all the hard calculations for us and giving us all these file numbers on platter and telling us how they arrived. So the two main realizations I had during the session when you were taking us through this, first was that to me, these scriptures have always been very full of stories and they have more of philosophical bent when I would read them, or not read, like when I would hear stories from them. But today, when you told us things around that, hey, relativity of time, something that our scriptures alluded to, has now been proven by science, it makes me believe that there are so many things that our scriptures are saying, that just because they can't be proven by science right now, as you mentioned, we are not accepting them. But it just makes me accept the learnings from the scriptures even more, given the fact that we now know that a couple of things have been proven. So that's one, that yes, our scriptures have a lot of scientific knowledge in them. That's one realization. Second realization is that I've actually seen this life of Brahma charts before, but I've never bothered about them because I thought it doesn't have a use case. Like, where would I apply this? But when you use this to date Ramayana, to date how old Mahabharata is, to let us know where we are in the entire span of universe, for the first time, I realized what is the use case of of looking at these charts that I had seen before. So, uh, yeah, great. Thank you for doing all these calculations for us, and this has been very useful. I have one question though, that I didn't understand. That how did you come to the fact that um, in Satyug people were 10 times smarter, or 10 times? How did you come up with that 10 times number? Is not something I grasped.
Yeah, so again, I don't have the exact text with me, but I'll try to find for you. So it's, I think in one of the Puranas it's mentioned that scaling factor of 10 is mentioned, and intuitively, if you see, there is intuitive proof of that, because you go through all the stories that are there in our Itinhasa of the Purana. And in fact, in one of the sessions, I will share the volume of scriptures that are there. So when people say I'm a Vedic scholar, or when people say that I'm a great Baba, and whatever, right? Believe what I'm saying. So I will share that slide where we need to establish just how much of the scriptures are there. When people say that I've read it, it's actually a joke, because the amount there is to read is just mind blowing. I think I shared that with you privately, right? So I will share that with the class. So to come to your question, there is sloka, which even when I say that Ramayana was in the 24th cycle. So how do I know? So I'll quote that shloka also, where it talks about it. It's in one of the Puranas. I'm forgetting the name, but I think it's in Brahma Puran. I think it's in Brahma Puran. I'll pull up that shloka. So that's where they talk about this factor of 10. So everything deteriorating by the factor of 10. So that's where it is actually mentioned. So in the next class, when I'm going to recap these slides, probably I'll put those exact shlokas if I can find them.
Sure, thank you. I just thought, because I thought that is it something a part of this derivation which I missed, so that's why I asked. Yeah, no, but thanks.
Derivation, I haven't derived it here. So okay, so everything which I've talked about here is actually nothing but this. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 11th chapter, and all I have put here, I mean, apart from the calculations I made and everything else, is actually on this link. So if you go to this link, you'll be able to read everything that I have written, and this is very beautifully written, because the translations are very neat. They don't go into unnecessary complication and purports and whatnot. So you will be able to understand some of these. So for example, when I first read, so this Anu, and then so Anu, I know Anu is atom. Now again, this is again what I call, what I say, lost in translation. So when it says Anu, so Anu, it defines as a fundamental thing that cannot be divided. Now, when modern science first came with that concept, they described that as atoms. They said that atom is before the time of, this is the time of the atom, right? So when the atom came to this concept of atom, that was, I think, that atom cannot be further divided. Now we know that atom can be further divided. So modern science translates that Anu as atom, and we have stuck on to that definition. Now you can come and challenge, but in scriptures it says that we cannot be divided, but we are dividing it, we can divide it further. So that is again because it is the wrong terms. It never said that Anu is an atom. It defined precisely that Anu is something that can be divided further. Now, if that happens to be a quark, then it is a quark. Then it need not be an atom. So again, when I'm drawing this benzene ring, this is my speculation. I don't know how it is. Maybe there is ups and downs quarks which combine to make something like this. I don't know. So I generally believe that when these things are put in scriptures, some great person has written or thought about this. So, so there is some method to it. I may not fully understand what it is. So Anu, Nimisha, Veda, Kunti, these are all very precise things. So let me find those slides for you where it establishes exactly that concept.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So shall we conclude?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so we will end this session, and the next session, so as I let me just quickly recap. So in 1 minute. So as I was saying that there are 5 concepts in Gita. So we have almost covered 2 of them. So we have kicked off. We have covered Jiva and Kala. So the next one, I will see whether we want to do Karma first or maybe Ishvara first. So we will either tackle the Karma or Ishvara. Maybe I'll do Karma first because I think now that we understand the concept of soul and we understand the concept of time, we can probably understand the concept of karma. And karma might take 2 sessions because there will be under it there will be lots and lots of questions, and a lot of them I may not be able to answer, but I'll try to because I'm myself learning this. So we will go through karma probably next. And after karma, I will go to Ishvara, which is the supreme controller, and then we will go to yoga because, as I said, yoga means connection. And the final topic, by doing all this, so that we can connect to Ishvara. At least that is the concept in Bhagavad Gita. Then in the final session, I'll probably get a guest as well. So he's okay. I'll tell you about him in when we come to that session. So that's how I plan. So let's see how we progress. I think it'll be a good journey to go together.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So I'll conclude it now.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
great.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.
Thanks, Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you.